They hover over heroes, lurk around villains, and somehow manage to stare at you right from the spinner rack. We're talking about floating heads. Those disembodied faces, suspended in comic book space, are one of the medium's strangest and most enduring design quirks. Today, we trace how this odd little visual became a defining hallmark of the Silver Age comics and why it still makes fans grin today. Our story begins in the late 1930s in Keen Detective Funnies number 20, cover date December 1939. Readers meet the Eye, a literal giant floating disembodied eye that dispenses justice from above. It wasn't a floating head cover per se, but it set a tone, the idea that a severed body part could be both mysterious and powerful. Through the Golden Age, completely isolated heads were rare in superhero books. Artists preferred full figures or bust shots. If floating faces appeared at all, they were confined to horror and science fiction pulp comics. Ghostly or monstrous heads in titles like Weird Horrors number 2 or Star Spangled Comics number 41 from 1945. They were eerie, symbolic, and never yet a design convention. It wasn't until 1960s that floating heads truly took flight, and it was Marvel Comics under Stan Lee's editorial direction that made them iconic. The Silver Age demanded instant recognition on crowded newsstands. Stan Lee's solution? Faces, and lots of them. By packing recognizable hero heads in corner boxes or the corner margins, Marvel let readers know exactly who was inside, even if only the top few inches of the comic were visible on the spinner rack. Take Strange Tales number 115, the 1963 issue famous for Human Torch and the debut of Doctor Strange Origin. We see Spider-Man's floating head cheering on the Human Torch. Both Marvel and DC embraced the floating heads, but each in their own style. At Marvel, the heads were often floated free, forming a loose halo around the action. The Avengers, Fantastic Four, and even Spider-Man covers used them to emphasize emotion and chaos. DC, even more organized, used them as a roll call. On Justice League of America covers, heads lined the margins in tiny ovals, a head count of who was appearing that month. Especially handy when the League crossed over with the Justice Society or other teams from DC. Different companies, same purpose, a visual shorthand to say, here's your team. Floating heads were practical too. They sold comics at a glance. A quick face scan told you if your favorite hero was inside the book. Saved time and space. One big action figure plus a ring of heads beats cramming several full bodies into a single panel. They created identity. The corner box became an early form of brand consistency. The reader's eye instantly recognized the Avengers or an X-Men book. It was marketing genius disguised as design flair. Meanwhile, in horror and underground comics, floating heads took on stranger roles. Disembodied spirits, skulls, or surreal narrators. From the gruesome pulp Weird Horrors to Dennis Warden's The Floating Skull and His Friends, the image evolved into a symbol of absurdity, morality, or dark humor. By the 1980s, the direct market revolution changed everything. Comics were sold laying flat in specialty shops, so the upper inch of the cover no longer needed to shout out from a spinner rack. Artists preferred full-figure action in cinematic layouts. The floating heads quietly drifted away until nostalgia brought them back. For instance, Marvel Legacy line briefly revived the corner box headshots, a wink to longtime fans who missed that Silver Age charm. Even if they faded again, every few years a cover artist would bring them back, and the fandom celebrates. Floating heads tell us something deeper about comics themselves. They sit right at the intersection of art, marketing, and storytelling. They emerged from practical necessity, but they became part of the medium's language, a way to balance spectacle with recognizability. And let's be honest, they just look cool. And one fan site put it, floating heads rocked. From the single all-seeing eye of 1939 to the chaotic chorus of Marvel team books, floating heads have hovered through decades of comic history, watching, seeing, and narrating. They may be just faces in space, but they've got a lot to say. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video about floating heads. And leave me a comment down below and let me know what is your favorite floating head cover of all time.